What is a SOW, or statement of work, for your MSP business? And spoiler alert, it is way more important than you actually think. In this video, we are covering the positives, the negatives, and what you really need to include to cover your butt. My name is Harrison Barron from growth-generators.com. We help MSPs with sales training and marketing. Before I get into the video, as always, there's a masterclass down in the links below. And two, check out the free Discord. It is literally completely free. If you want to go join, there's either a link down below or growth-generators.com/Discord. So let's talk about a statement of work. What is a statement of work? A statement of work, in its core kind of necessity or function, is just a document that basically tells your prospect the work that is going to be done. Now, in most cases, you only need a statement of work for one-off services, because your SLA in the last video, your service level agreement, is more for what is you're doing on a monthly basis, right? Between your proactive monitoring, between your service desk, all of that. Your statement of work is really for one-off type things where you're swapping out servers, migrating somebody from the cloud or emails, whatever it is. It's that one-off major project. Now, you're probably going to end up with 2 statements of work, and I'm going to cover that at the end and why you actually need that. So there's kind of 5 things that it does right off the bat, but they're really important. I'm going to go in depth in all of them so you can fully understand really the severity of it. It clarifies the scope of work. It sets the expectation. It's the basis for your agreement of what you're actually doing for the person. It helps with risk management for both you and the client. So if something does happen on the client's end, they're not responsible, and that holds you responsible. But also, if something goes wrong, it holds you responsible to make sure that, you didn't touch something you weren't supposed to touch. And then it's also a good way to measure your performance, because believe it or not, it's a one-off thing. You can measure that most of the time and see, hey, is your team getting better? Is it getting worse? Where is their positives in there? So let's talk about the key components of a statement of work, right? It sounds kind of crazy. It just shows the scope. It shows the scope of what the work that is actually getting done is. Simple, I know, but it's important to have it because the customer wants to see it, 1. And 2, it also helps you go to your team and say, hey guys, this is what we're doing. Only this. Anything that is not involved in this is super important. That is, like, I cannot stress it enough. It's just vital to have for your team because they might not know. Your project manager might actually say, like, hey, we're just swapping out a server, and then things get crazy and you lose tension and it can go off the rails fairly quickly. Number 2, it also sets objectives. I think a lot of people don't even realize that you're doing the work for some kind of outcome, whether that's an upgrade, that a migration, making things easier for the business, but there's always something, there's a reason why it's actually happening. It also covers the deliverables. What does that customer actually expect when it's all done? Is it a migration? Is it new hardware, new server racks? Is there a major upgrade going on? Maybe you're just moving a company from one building to another. As simple as that sounds, you still need a statement of work. Now, some companies might really want that, and other companies might be like, don't worry about it. We work with you all the time. Covers a timeline. Got to have a timeline. Super important. At least what you project happening. Obviously, if there's hiccups, it's going to push it back. But if you're like, I'll just get to it when I get to it. I'm going to climb Mount Everest at some point in my life. I don't know about Mount Everest, but I'm going to climb Mount Everest at some point in my life. Doesn't matter if it's happening today or it's happening in 10 years from now, right? It'll help with your quality and performance standards. It'll help with pricing and payment terms, confidentiality and data agreements, and then your acceptance criteria. If that person accepts it, this is everything that's going to be going on. Signed by both parties, you as the MSP provider and also your client. I know that's a lot because it is a lot. It's a legally binding document. Yes, your first one's probably going to be written by a lawyer. If you want, I'm hosting something called MSP Heroes in the future, super secret project. You'll be able to just get a templatized one and actually have it there. So let's talk about, now that we've kind of covered the components of a statement of work, because there's a lot of them, why do MSPs actually need it? It's really important that MSPs have it. 1, I know it sounds silly and I've kind of already said it, but it aligns expectations. Your customer is expecting you to do something, but you also are expected to do something. And by those coming together, it allows for a tremendous advantage for both people because there's no guessing. Well, what's actually going to happen? What do I actually do? It's full clarity. Also, talked about covering your rear end. Legal protection for both you and your customer. Yes, it's important to cover your butt. It's also important for your customer to cover their butt, and you're covering their butt by saying, hey, this is what we're going to do and nothing outside of that. Now, there's also some gray areas with your regular service level agreement, but it is important to go through it, and it helps with your customer satisfaction because they know what they're getting. It's that simple. You want them to know what they're actually getting. By you just willy-nilly saying, hey, this is all going to happen, this is what's going to go about it, it's important to have that so they know what's happening, they feel confident about it, and especially that timeline lets them know when it's happening and what the process is going to be so they can expect downtime, people not being able to work effectively. The list kind of goes on and on. So let's talk about best practices. Best practices are important because it has to be clear. Your statement of work has to be well drafted. Now, what I alluded to in the beginning was you're probably going to have 2 statements of work. One for more, hey, you bought a new computer, you might just include that as a general statement of work for, the normal stuff that you're going to do, from hardware swap outs and all that kind of stuff. And then you're going to have a much deeper one for your large projects, whatever that large project might actually be. One-off, keep in mind. It's important to have that. So being super clear on one of them and a little more vague on the other is totally fine, but you might need 2. One statement of work for the project that's happening and another statement of work for just about everything else, right? Swapping out a switch, swapping out hardware, whatever it may actually be. Even something like a small migration that you do all the time in there. It also, another good practice is to make sure that the key people in both businesses are a part of it. So, for example, your MSP, if you have a small team, if maybe the business owner have a salesperson, that salesperson should go to you to revise that, and potentially even the project manager. Those 2 people, 1 and 2, should 100% be involved in that process. Same thing on the customer side. Yes, the person that signs the check, 100%, but are there any other key stakeholders? Managers, controllers, anything like that on their side, even other partners should know about this, because if they don't, you could put yourself in some hot water. Hey, a partner comes in expecting a team to do something, and you say, hey, or they're coming in on a weekend and you're like, hey man, we're doing a project right now, and there's no communication there, could be really, really bad. Now, another best practice, and you already heard it in the last video, you got to review it every so often. It doesn't have to be every week, every month, but every quarter, maybe every 6 months. You probably want to just make sure that your I's are dotted and your T's are crossed, and things haven't changed in your business. As you progressively go on, things are going to happen. That's the whole point. Because of that, your statement of work might change, and the way you operate might change. You want to make sure that that statement of work says all of that, because if it doesn't, and it's maybe from 6 months or a year earlier, you could leave yourself to some legal vulnerabilities that might not be great. And not even legal vulnerabilities. Worst comes to worst, you send a statement of work that's really old, the customer looks at it and is like, this is not right. Like, all of this is wrong, or this is not what you guys are doing. It could really not be a good thing. And it's the exact opposite. You got to be clear and concise. You can't be vague. I hate to say it, but when you're doing a statement of work, you want to be as clean and pristine as possible. Reread it 2, 3, 4, 5 times. Have your project manager or the business owner, whomever it might be, read that thing over and make sure the customer reads it over and fully understands it. They should not be signing something that they don't actually know. And that's really it. That's the core parts of a statement of work. You're going to probably have a more generic one for all of your basic stuff, and then for the bigger projects, an individualized scope of work. And you might want to templatize that. You might want to say, hey, this is our normal scope of work, and then you just punch in and fill in the appropriate information, send that over to the customer. It's important for them to know it, and it's important for you to know it, because at what point does your statement of work stop? That's really, really important. Hey, this is not a part of the scope or the statement of work. We're not doing it. That's not what we agreed on. That's not what you agreed on. That would be a bonus. And then it's up to you. If you want to throw in a bonus, go into it. That's okay. That's the best part about it. You have that opportunity, but you don't want to leave it open-ended. You don't want to not have a timeline. You don't want to be super vague about it. You want to be clear, concise with a timeline and what is actually going to be happening. It is so crazy important because it could just open up the wrong can of worms for your business. So hope you found some value in this. If you guys enjoyed this video, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, little notification bell. I appreciate the heck out of you guys. I'll see you guys later. Love you.